outcome of how we deal with things has to do with how we communicate, and especially how we communicate under stress. And she identified 4 of what she called stress styles of communication. And what you're going to see as we play with this, and we're going to play with this in a moment, is that they're all ways of pushing other people away from us. And she called those 4 styles the placater or people pleaser, the blamer, the computer, and the distractor. And again, their behaviors, their styles. It's not, and one of the things that we'll focus on continuously through this, people's basic nature doesn't really change from a fairly early age. You know, I would say by middle school, we pretty much are who we are in terms of our basic nature and temperament. What can change is behaviors. So the things that we look at, these are behaviors. They're often behaviors people learn to survive, but then become behaviors that can sabotage. All right, so let's look at them. So in every communication, there are 3 key elements. There's a lot of sub-elements, but in every communication, there are 3 primary elements. And those elements are the self, meaning what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, what are my experiences, you know, what are the things that have happened in my life, you know, how do I interpret this? What are my goals or aspirations? That's one part of every communication, is me, myself, what's there for me. Another part of every communication is the other person. All those same things for them. And again, identical twins can see things completely differently. You know, we can see things from one moment to another very differently. So it's normal that people see things the way they see things. And the third element of communication is the context. Meaning, what are we talking about? What are we dealing with? What's the issue here? So each of these stress styles cancels out one or more of those elements. We're going to play with it. We're going to play with it because people learn in different ways. But you'll remember the exercises and how it feels in your body much more than you'll remember anything that could arise any. So in this style, the placater cancels out the self. So outwardly, they'll say things like,
if I had listened to you and followed your instructions, we won't be here now. I promise I'll make it up to you and I won't do this again.
and the placater also has a body, Satir had a posture for each of these. Yeah, so the placater's posture is generally down on one knee, and maybe 2. You know, hand over their heart, shoulders bent, because somebody's always stepping on the placater. One hand reaching up to heaven, because that's where they're expecting their salvation and help to come from. So everybody out of your seats, practice being placaters, 30 seconds. Placaters with each other. Up, out of your seat, stand up, so you can feel it in your body. Everybody, practice being placaters. Be aware of what it feels like in your body. That is what you will remember after we leave here. Be aware of what it feels like to be on the receiving end of someone who's in that style. Be aware of what it feels like in your body to be in that style. The next one is the blamer. Who do you think the blamer cancels out? Yes, the other person. The blamer says the best offense is the best defense is a good offense, right? I'm going to get you before you can get me. So the blamer may be very aware of what's there for themselves. They may be very aware of the context, but they don't really want to see your feelings or your thoughts or your experiences.
10 times a day, I tell you the same thing over and over and over again. You never listen to me, you know? If you just do what I say, you won't be in this mess.
And there's a lot of ways to blame. Some of the best blamers I ever met, they roll their eyes, their necks, you know, it's a body posture. All of these things can be done very subtly or very aggressively. All right, so out of your seats, practice 30 seconds being flamers. Okay. Be aware of what that felt like. You know, so you what it felt like to be on the giving or receiving end. And as we're doing this, also be aware of what's familiar and unfamiliar. You know, from any time in your life. So the third of the stress styles is called the computer. And the computer says, you know, emotions are so unpredictable. They're so messy, they're so irrational. Let's just be logical, like Spock on Star Trek, or who are some other characters that are like that? What?
Robots.
Robots for sure. Yeah, we sort of, you know, used to be, there was a transition period. What?
Sheldon. Big Bang Theory.
Sheldon. Yes. And in the military, I've often heard people say that in the military, if you're supposed to have feelings, they would have been issued. You know, because that's part, and also with other professions, in the legal profession. You know, people are taught just to be super rational and super reasonable. And it makes perfect sense in those parts of someone's life to do that. You know, you wouldn't want to be, if you're a pilot, if you're facing a crisis, you don't want to pause. The moment you pause to think about how you feel about it, you know, maybe the last moment of everybody's life. Same with, you know, law enforcement, same with police. You know, maybe same in other areas. So they're different, and that's an important message here. They're different skills for different aspects of our lives. The skills that we're talking about are for the people we want to be close to. You know, where it's safe to be close. These are not necessarily the skills that are going to, it's not that they're not necessarily, these aren't the skills to survive on the battlefield. But once that threat has passed and we're reconnecting with loved ones, that's very different. They're not the skills that's going to help you go into that room not knowing if it's a woman holding a baby, you know, or someone with a gun. But once that moment's passed and you're home with, you know, Shannon and Madison, that's a whole different skill set. Imagine if you go back in home with the same skills that you approach the building with. So the computer style says no feelings. But again, keep in mind that bonding, the first half of bonding is emotional openness. If you turn off feelings altogether, there not going to be any emotional openness. You can have, you know, physical closeness without the emotional part. That's like hugging a tree, we say. You know, you get your arms around it, but there's not a whole lot of satisfaction there. You know? And you can have the emotional part without the physical part, and that could be like having a nice friend. You know, and that's great and wonderful, but that you can rent that, you can, you know, buy that sometimes. But that's not the same. So, okay, so the computer, steel rod going right up to your spine. And you're always looking past the other person because you don't really want to see the other person. So what kind of things might you say in that position?
I got a phone call today. Johnny's being bullied in school. Tomorrow morning, we're going to go talk to the principal. We're going to find out who the teacher is. We're going to find out who the student is. We're going to have a good
It's all my fault. If I had done what I was supposed to, that would have never happened.
Johnny again.
It's your fault. You can, and you're going to see in a moment, you can mix and match these instantly. So that's the computer style. Computers often use many syllables in their words. You know, that's one of the first signs of a computer is very carefully constructed sentences that make perfect, rationally, logically, they make perfect sense. You know, but they're totally void of emotion, of feelings. So, and again, it used to be that that's how people were prepared for a lot of careers, because there were no computers. But today, if you take emotions out of the picture, you don't need people. You know, today, what we do as human beings, you know, a plane can fly on autopilot. You know, Burger King can take your order with a machine. You punch in the buttons. What's left for us as human beings in terms of work as well as home in most professions, just creating rapport, is being able to experience and create emotional connection with another human being. Okay.
I've noticed, especially watching like The Apprentice or something, they have the boardrooms and my own experience with the boardroom. If you show emotion in the boardroom, especially as a female, you're not taken seriously. They want you almost to come in and watch it. When you watch another boardroom objectively, you see that when someone gets upset and shows emotion, you do lose respect for them in that situation.
Yeah, and that's a really good example how in different parts of our lives, there's different behaviors that help us be successful. You know, but if somebody's watching The Apprentice and thinking, oh, now I know how to be a husband or a wife or a mother or father or a friend, that's not training for that. That's training to work with Donald Trump, who's had plenty of his own challenges, but he does have the hair. Okay. All right, practice being computers with each other, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay, one. Again, be aware of how familiar and unfamiliar that style was. The fourth style, my very, very personal favorite, and I am really good at this. Actually, I'm good at all. I'm not so good at the computer, but I'm good at others. My fourth one and my favorite is called the distractor. The distractor basically says, problem, what problem? You know, it's like, as long as I don't see it, as long as I find a way not to pay attention to it, and there are a lot of ways to do it. You can drink, you can take drugs, you can disappear into work and never come out. You know, you can find something really good in the refrigerator, which I'm really good at. But distractor style cancels out everything. They cancel out themselves, their feelings, their perspective, their stuff. They cancel out the other person, they cancel out the issue. It's all gone. And very quickly, those ways of canceling out become the problem. But it doesn't come, none of this comes from a bad place. It's, you know, these are ways we learn to survive in the world, or ways we learn to succeed in other aspects of our life. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But the distractor or irrelevant style, no problem, what problem? We don't pay the light bill, we don't have any electricity, we'll go to the movies. You know, we'll have fun, we'll do this. Woo. Secure body posture for the distractor is knees bent in,
Yeah.
sort of wandering around.
I might not need you picked up.
Yeah.
Okay, describe, you say, Johnny's fell in his grades in school today?
Yeah.
Oh, that movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be
How to
good.
Train Your Dragon 2. Did you
I
see number
see
one?
that. That's so great.
Oh, I tell you, number one was hilarious. It starts tonight at 8:30.
Yeah.
You're gonna be on time?
Hey, Johnny, you're in town. You stay here.
We're
We're
talking
gonna
about
go see the
Johnny.
movie.
We're talking about Johnny's
Yeah.
grades tomorrow.
There's,
Okay?
we can see a double feature.
What is gonna be popcorn, Coke, or what? Which one?
I'm going with the popcorn.
And after that, there the Transformers.
Oh my God, I cannot
man,
believe
Blu-ray.
it. How much fun.
Let's go. Okay.
Practice up out of your seats, be distractors. Out of touch.
Tired today. Nothing to worry about.